Good morning. I'm Steve Jobs, and I'd like to thank you all for coming. We've got a really interesting morning planned because we're going to introduce our first real server. And we wanted to take you through it. We've got a few presentations. I'm going to do an overview. We've got a presentation on the software and remote management. We've got a presentation on sales, support, and service. And we've got a few partners and customers. And then we'll do a Q&A. We had 3 hours down on the agenda. I'm hoping we only take about 2, so get you out of here a little after 11. And then we've got some stuff set up in the piano bar across the hall here where you can go get your hands on some of this stuff yourself. So let's get going. This calendar year, Apple has already introduced a stream of innovation. Just since January, we introduced the new iMac, which has been a really big hit for us and is selling very well, and I think it's one of the best products we've ever made. We also introduced a desktop for our education customers, the eMac, and this has been received very well by our customers. We're in the first quarter of selling it, and we expect to do very well this quarter. The reaction so far also has been very strong from our education customers. We also introduced an upgraded PowerBook that's got a dramatically better display on it and the industry's first DVI connector on a portable, so you can connect to new projectors with DVI connectors on them, but also you can connect to our displays. So this PowerBook can drive a Cinema HD display and has all the graphics and video memory inside it to be able to do that, and so you can triple your pixels when you get to your desk and plug in one connector all digitally. And last week, we introduced an amazing, we previewed, excuse me, an amazing new product, Mac OS X Jaguar, the next release of Mac OS X. We had our most successful developer conference last year in the company's history, which is saying a lot given the travel and budget restrictions this year. As you may know, the number of registered Apple developers has doubled in the last 12 months, and all of the new developers are principally Unix and Java developers, and we are so excited to have people coming to our developer conference that wouldn't even talk to us before our Unix-based Mac OS X. Jaguar, which we previewed, which will be available late this summer, has a ton of new features in it. Some major enhancements to Mail, a whole new address book, Inkwell, which is probably the best handwriting recognition out there, which came from you-know-what, and universal access so that we don't leave anybody behind, a new Finder, something incredible called Quartz Extreme, which is taking our whole Quartz graphics pipeline and putting it through our graphics hardware, so that it is amazing what you can do now, or what you will be able to do with Quartz Extreme. A technology called Rendezvous, which allows multiple computers and devices, let's say in a home or in a business, to automatically find each other. It's dynamic discovery over IP networks with zero configuration. It's really, really cool, and our developers loved it. Two of the biggest things we introduced was QuickTime 6, which is a whole new version of QuickTime based on MPEG-4. This is the best MPEG-4 streaming video solution around, and it's going to be bundled in the next release of Mac OS X coming out late this summer. And instant messaging coming to the Mac, integrated right into the operating system in an application called iChat. It's totally compatible with AOL's AIM instant messaging network. And it's the first time AOL sort of let another company into the tent officially. And all of this stuff, of course, runs on Mac OS X, which is Unix, true Unix under the hood. And as a matter of fact, we are now the largest supplier of Unix in the world. Isn't that incredible? I'll say that again. Apple is now the largest Unix supplier in the world. It's hard to believe. And that's why all these Unix developers now are coming to Apple and Mac OS X. So that was Jaguar. So we've seen already, we're only in our 5th month, we've seen a tremendous stream of innovation so far this year, continuing what we've done for the last 18 months to try to innovate our way through this economic period. So we're going to add another piece of innovation today coming from Apple, which is a server, and we call it Xserve. Xserve is a new server from Apple. Now, when you think about servers, you think about the enterprise, right? And when you think about the enterprise in Apple, you're more likely to think about this than anything else. But it's not really true. Though we are not on every desktop in every Fortune 500 corporation, we are in most Fortune 500 corporations. And they have departments that use Macs. AOL Time Warner uses a lot of Macs. Their magazines every week are put out on Macs. Companies like Disney, companies like in biotech, like Genentech, usually half or more of their computers are Macs. So there are a lot of Macs in a lot of Fortune 500 corporations. But Xserve is really designed not only for business but also for education, because we have a large presence there as well. So if there's one word that I would say describes our entrance into the server market, it is humble. We know we have a lot to learn. And this is our first offering. We've listened to our customers a lot. And we think we got a pretty hot product. But we know that for everything we know, there's 10 things we don't know. So we're approaching this very humbly. So Xserve, what is it? It's a one-use server solution designed from the ground up. It's been customer-driven, and our customers have told us they want to do the following things. They want to do file and print service, obviously. They want to do web and email service. They want to do database on their server. They want to do QuickTime streaming. This is a way to, and they want to stream, hundreds of streams. Boom. And they want to do computational service. As an example, our customers in biotech want to run probably the most popular program in biotech. They run dozens of times a day called BLAST. And they want one or a cluster of servers to run this very fast. So what did they want to see in a server? Well, the first thing they want from Apple is a dedicated server platform. They don't want to use a Power Mac G4 as a server. They want a dedicated server platform. They want it to be rack mounted. It's the most efficient way to do it. That's how they do it now, and they want to see that from Apple. They want a lot of storage flexibility. Some customers need a little storage, some customers need a lot of storage, and they want the flexibility to design the storage that they need. They want serviceability. They know that these things need to be very reliable, but sometimes do need to be serviced, and they want great serviceability on this. And, of course, they have to be able to manage these things remotely. So they want great remote management. So I'm going to go through all these things and tell you what we've done with Xserve. To start with, Xserve is a dedicated server platform. So let me take you through the architecture. First, we start off with a 1 gigahertz G4 processor, which has 256K of internal level 2 cache running at the processor speed. This is a very, very fast chip, faster than most chips that ship in servers today. And to this, we add an external 2 megabyte cache, which is DDR SRAM. Very, very fast cache, 4 gigabyte per second throughput to the processor. So it's got a level 2 internal cache and a level 3 external cache. To that, we add a mirror, a second processor with its own cache. So we've got dual 1 gigahertz G4s, each with their own level 2 cache, each with a large level 3 cache. Okay. To that, we add a system controller. Now, this system controller is a custom ASIC that we've done, and it provides exceptional throughput, way more than most of the other stuff on the market. And it's got built in it gigabit Ethernet, and it's got FireWire, and as we'll see, a whole bunch of other things built right in it, in a single chip. Next, we add on to that up to 2 gigabytes of DDR SRAM. This is the first time DDR SDRAM, has been used in a one-use server that we know of. First time. 266 megahertz, double the rate of the memory in every other server that we've been able to find. It's also the first Apple DDR SDRAM system that we will have shipped. Then we add a PCI slot with a second gigabit Ethernet to it. So this server is going to come standard with 2 gigabit Ethernet ports. These are ports that are 10, 100, and gigabit Ethernet full auto detection. Next, we add an I/O channel out of the system controller, and we add quad ATA100 drives. These are all on independent controllers, all have independent channels in through the system controller. a CD-ROM, and two 64-bit 66 megahertz PCI slots for expansion. We also have 3 FireWire ports, 2 USB ports, a serial console port, and all of those other kinds of things as well. Now, this is going to be the first mainstream server to use ATA drives. Most of the other ones use SCSI drives. We're going with ATA drives because it turns out they're just as fast as SCSI drives now, and they offer some real benefits in terms of larger capacities. This is the fastest Mac architecture we've ever built. Again, featuring dual gigahertz G4s, 266 megahertz DDR SDRAM, quad independent ATA drives, dual gigabit Ethernet ports, and two 64-bit 66 megahertz PCI ports. So this is a dedicated server platform, fastest architecture we've ever built. Next, rack mounted. This is Xserve. This is what it looks like. Let me show you, actually. I've got one here. I've got a few here, actually. This is Xserve. Here's 5 of them. Here's one of them. This is the back of the product. This is the top. Let me slide it out. That's what it looks like. We've got our 4 ATA 100 drives right there in the front. We've got our CD-ROM. We've got fans right here. Power supply. Dual G4 processors. 2 gigabytes of DDR SDRAM, and our 3 PCI slots. 1 for the second gigabit Ethernet and 2 for expansion. So that's what it looks like inside. Now, you can put these in a rack, of course, and you can just start stacking them up in a rack. And if you fill this rack, what you'll get is 84 processors, storage of up to 20 terabytes in a 42U rack. So, rack mounted, yes. Storage flexibility. We are shipping with 60 gigabyte and 120 gigabyte ATA 100 drives. Now, we support 4 drive bays, and so if you put 120 gigabytes in each of those, you get 480 gigabytes in a 1U rack mount server. So, up to 480 gigabytes online. With quad ATA 100 drives, that's 400 megabytes per second throughput off the drives, which is huge. It's also very important when you're doing file service, when you're doing QuickTime streaming, etc. Your disk bandwidth is very, very important. We've got striping and mirroring. We've got smart drive monitoring. We are actually monitoring these drives to look at their error rates, to look at all the statistics about the drive so we can do predictive failure on them, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And we've got a CD-ROM built in for, of course, software install and restore. These drives are hot pluggable. We've designed a really nice carriage where you can unplug them. And so just, boom, 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 boom. Really easy. Take one out, just, that's it. Very simple. And they are hot pluggable. That's it. So, 480 gigabytes of storage, hot pluggable, 4 drives. I think we've delivered storage flexibility. Next, serviceability. You can service an Xserve in seconds. Of course, you can service the drives like we just saw. But in terms of the units themselves, they literally just slide out. There's nothing extra to buy. The rack mount guides are supplied as part of Xserve. There's no top to take off, so you can just literally slide the thing part of the way out or all the way out. There's nothing to take off to get at the guts, and to service almost every component in seconds. So, we also have hardware monitoring, where we try to alert you to what needs service, in some cases ahead of time. So, what are we monitoring with hardware? The drive status and pre-fail, which is part of that smart disk technology. We're monitoring the temperature of both the processor and the enclosure. We're monitoring that the fans are working and what their RPMs are. We're monitoring the power supply voltages. And we're monitoring that the network connections are established. And you will see more about this a little later. It's really impressive what we can do with this. We also have built-in security. Since this is so easy to open up, we have an enclosure security lock that keeps it from being opened. We have an intrusion alert that lets you know if it's been opened. And we have a software lock so that you can lock down FireWire, USB, and the CD-ROM from letting anyone in. So we tried to think of the type of security that people want in a modern-day server. So this is Xserve. You can service anything in seconds. We think we've built in state-of-the-art hardware monitoring and security and have a very strong serviceability story. So pricing and availability. Pricing on Xserve starts at $29.99. There are two standard models. One comes with one gigahertz G4. The other comes with dual gigahertz G4 processors. One, a quarter gigabyte of DDR memory. The other with a half a gigabyte of DDR memory. Both come with 60 gig drives as standard. One for $29.99, one for $39.99. But most people aren't going to buy these standard configurations. They're going to configure one exactly like they want. You can go to our website and do that. Select the server page, select one of our standard models, or customize it any way you want. Thousands and thousands of configurations. Now, how does this compare to the competition? What does it look like out there? Well, we picked a few different things to compare to. Here's Xserve. We're going to take the dual processor model. We're going to take our competitors and configure them as close as we can to Xserve. So here's a Dell PowerEdge 1650 with dual processors. Configured, it's about $4,277. An IBM Xserve X3300 for $5,186. And a Sun. This is the closest Sun we could get. The low-end Suns are not competitive, and it's almost $20,000. So 3 of these are 1U servers. The Sun is a 4U server. 1U servers. And as I mentioned, they have dual processors in them. Dual 1 gigahertz G4 in Xserve. The other two, the middle two, use Pentium 3s. They can't put a Pentium 4 in because they can't get the heat out in a 1U server. So they use Pentium 3s at 1.4 gigahertz. And the Sun uses a dual 900 megahertz UltraSpark 3s. Now, if we look at level, they all have level 2 caches built in. If we look at level 3 caches, though, which really can speed up performance, the Xserve, again, has 4 megabytes of level 3 cache, 2 megabytes on each processor. And the Sun has 8 megabytes of level 3 cache, but the Dell and the IBM have no level 3 cache, and it's not even possible to add it. So this does affect performance. In terms of memory, we've loaded the Dell and the IBM up to get to 512 megabytes. The Sun, the lowest you can buy it with, is 2 gigabytes, which is great. But if you notice, the Xserve is the only one that uses 266 megahertz DDR memory. The rest of them are at 133 megahertz SDRAM. And that makes a difference in performance, double the bandwidth to memory. On the disk drive front, we've loaded them up to get as close as we can to Xserve with its 60 gigabytes. We've got 73 gigabytes on the middle two and about the same on the Sun. If you notice, again, everyone else uses SCSI drives. We think there is an absolute trend to ATA drives now that they've gotten as fast as SCSI drives and are less expensive and larger capacity. But if you look at the total capacity of each of these servers, we've got 4 bays in the Xserve for 480 gigabytes of storage. But look at the 2 middle ones. 219 gigabytes max on the Dell with 3 bays, and 144 gigabytes on both the IBM and the Sun. So all 3 of these servers have a lot less storage capacity and flexibility than Xserve does. Ethernet, again, Xserve and Dell come standard with dual gigabit Ethernet. We've loaded the IBM up. You can't get dual gigabit Ethernet on the Sun, but we've ordered the optional single gigabit Ethernet included in that price. So again, the prices for these things are, as I've mentioned, but these prices are for Linux on the middle 2 servers. Mac OS X server on Xserve, of course, Linux on the middle 2, and Solaris, of course, on the Sun. But what if you want to run Windows on the middle 2. Well, you're in for a shock, because to buy a Windows license on the middle 2 for just 5 users, which is not too useful in an enterprise, $799 additional dollars. Most people are going to have to buy the 25 user license, which cost $3,295 from Dell or IBM. And when you add that price, as you see, Xserve and Sun come with unlimited user licenses bundled in. If you add that to the price, look at what you get. Look at the hidden cost of actually running these as Windows servers with just 25 concurrent user license. Look at what they cost compared to Xserve with an unlimited user license at $39.99. So, again, 2 standard models, single and dual processor, and you can configure to anything you want on the website. We are taking orders beginning today. So after this meeting, you can all go order your server, and we will be shipping these next month. So we're very close to shipping you your Xserve. Now, again, let's run through what our customers asked for. Dedicated server platform. We're giving them a great one, we think. Certainly rack mounted. Storage flexibility with 480 gigabytes. You can service it in seconds with intrusion alerts and hardware monitoring. And remote management. For remote management, I'm going to go back to our agenda here. We're going to go to the second topic on our agenda, the software and remote management. And I'm going to turn it over to Phil Schiller. But before I do, I forgot to do one thing, which I want to do, which is just pull one of these guys out so you can see how easy this is. That's all there is to it, to get to every part in the server. So take a look at one of these after the presentation and see for yourself how easy it is. Phil?
Thanks, Steve. Well, good morning, everyone. What's left to say? That is an amazing amount of cool technology. But what's left to talk about is the software. We have built Xserve because our customers have asked for it, and because macOS 10 Server, with its Unix underpinning, was crying out for some great hardware to run on. We have this great operating system now, and customers have said, I want to run macOS 10 Server on some dedicated server hardware. And all of our software sales for servers have switched over in the last year to being exclusively all macOS 10 Server. So the server has already transitioned in the last year to being entirely macOS 10 based. That already happened over the last 12 months. And the reason it happened, first and foremost, of course, is, as you know, it's Unix based. And we've got this incredible Unix underpinning in a server. I don't think we'd be doing this if it was a macOS 7 or 8 or even 9 server. With macOS 10 and the Unix underpinning, now there are a lot of enterprises, a lot of customers who find this fits into their existing plans for their enterprise network. It's not something different. It's exactly the kinds of things they want to deploy inside their enterprises. Now, a lot of the things you know that macOS 10 has brought us on the desktop mean the same and even more in a server. So, for example, having protected memory and multitasking and multi-threading matter even more on a server, which you want to keep up and running all the time. You want great symmetric multiprocessing in a dual processor server for the kinds of applications, the databases, and WebObjects applications you're going to run on it. You certainly want state-of-the-art networking that fits in with the kind of networking you deploy and all the technology you have in the enterprise. And you want really important server software add-ons like great RAID support. And all these things are in macOS 10, and as a server, it means even more. Now, what do people do with servers? So, you know, the number one reason companies buy servers today, first and foremost, file and print services. And we have great file and print services built into macOS 10 Server. If you want to serve up files and printing for your Mac clients, of course, we offer the best solution for that. But a lot of customers are starting to realize we also have great Windows client support built into macOS 10 Server. You can turn on a macOS 10 Server to be a Windows server, and your clients don't even know it's not a Windows server. It's the macOS 10 Server, now can be an Xserve providing that capability. Of course, since it's Unix, we have great support for Unix and Linux clients as well. And if you have anyone coming in for the internet, of course, we have all the latest standards to be a great file server and print server for the internet. And all of this works with standard Mac and Windows and Unix print services. Of course, the other reason people buy servers is to be a great internet for intra or internet solutions, as well as a web server. Again, the Unix underpinning of Mac OS X makes these products great internet servers. Of course, for a web server, you've heard us talk about this, we now are standardized on Apache, the most popular web server on the internet. And we want to run a great version on Mac OS X. And now you can build racks of Apache web server using Mac OS X and Xserve. Of course, streaming is growing in popularity. We're seeing our education accounts, ISP accounts growing more and more use of streaming media. And QuickTime streaming is built in and completely included. As Steve talked about, as we move to QuickTime 6, we have the only complete end-to-end MPEG-4 streaming solution. And it's built right in. There's nothing else you need to get to use it on an Xserve. WebObjects is incredibly powerful technology for building web-driven applications. Our own Apple Store, which does tremendous amount of business, billions of dollars a year, run on WebObjects, now run on rack-mounted servers from Apple. Of course, mail, every enterprise runs mail services, and we can deliver industry-standard mail with all the key formats that matter for both remote and local managed mail services. For all the other technologies, there's so many, I could spend an hour just going into them, but for example, WebDAV, industry-standard internet-based file services, SSL for security, web caching, all built in with Unix standards in Mac OS X server. You probably also want a server to provide network services throughout your organization. Again, the Unix underpinnings here give the best standard BSD networking services. So if you want to be a firewall, we have an IP firewall built right into Xserve. If you want to be a DHCP server or a DNS server or a SLP server, all of that's built in with industry standard tools. And it is Unix at its core, but it is also Mac ease of use. You'll see in a minute how easy this is. No one else delivers that combination of real Unix tools for your enterprise and simple software solutions to manage and set it up. People are also building in servers to manage the work groups themselves. What about all these clients in the network? We're starting to move into a world of directory managed clients, and we have the broadest base support and are moving forward even further with our LDAP integration. But starting today, you can use an Xserve to manage all your Mac 7 and 8 clients with Mac Manager, your Mac OS X clients with NetInfo. You can connect to LDAP directories, and you have a simple, secure server administration environment to manage all of that. So that's all things in Mac OS X server and how they make a lot of sense on Xserve, and it's going to open up a number of great applications and deployments of Xserves. But what have we done specifically, since at Apple we make the hardware and the software, and very few companies have that kind of capability, certainly nobody in the range of this powerful entry-level servers. And since we make both, what did we do to take advantage of that and advance this even more? Well, we've put together a whole list of things we've been working on that when Xserve comes out and is available, it will have faster SMP networking. It'll be completely headless. So this can sit in a rack, and I can, over the network, set it up, manage it, take care of it, do maintenance without ever having to hook up a monitor if I don't want to. We've added support for UPS systems, so we can have uninterrupted power supply and over USB communicate with those and manage them. We've enlarged the file system support because clearly you're going to add storage solutions to this. Stick in a SCSI card or fiber channel card to talk to a RAID array, and you want larger file systems, so now we support up to 2 terabyte file systems for each of these servers. You want to plug these servers in to existing management infrastructures. And this is an area where Apple has to be extremely humble. There are other companies that manage entire large enterprises much better than we do. And you're going to hear more about that later. But we plug in with standard SNMP environments. We've created our own MIB to plug into these great powerful tools so that somebody with a cross-platform server environment can manage their Xserves just like they manage servers from any of the other companies you've seen us compare to. And we have great tools for the Apple customers. If you're an Apple shop, you've got a Mac OS X machine to administer this on, you want to buy a bunch of Xserves, out of the box, we will give you simple, powerful management tools that's easier than anyone else has today. And any customer can just get up and running and manage these things with some very, very cool ways. And I'll show you how that looks. And as Steve mentioned, unlimited clients. You don't have to worry about client licenses. How many web-based customers are getting on your server? How many customers inside your company are getting on the server? Just unlimited clients. So one less thing to worry about, one less hidden cost in deploying servers. So what does that look like? Well, here is the system administration. This is the kind of user interface we have to set up all these great services, these software services we've talked about. This compares to most customers are using still text-based, standard old-fashioned terminal-like applications to manage their servers. They're writing into long config text files, and we do it through a beautiful Aqua interface. And that was existing with Mac OS X already, system administration, which now makes tremendous sense in this product. A completely new piece of software we're adding is called the Server Monitor. And this is how you manage all of the hardware and all that great data that's coming from the hardware that Steve talked about. But rather than explain it, the easiest way for me to talk about it is to show you these two pieces of software. So I have a PowerBook up here, beautiful titanium PowerBook G4, administrator's tool of choice. And we've created a network of Xserves right here in this building. We've got some over in the piano bar that you can take a look at later. We've got some in some other rooms. And if I want to manage some of those, well, first, if I want to manage the services, I just launch the server admin, and I can log into any one of them. I'm going to go log into one of those servers, and this is the user interface to manage that server. So, for example, simple things, like I want server info. I want to get what software is it running, what's its serial number. I just click on it, and up that pops. Maybe we want to manage those clients. I said client management is becoming one of the most important things people are buying servers to do. Very simple, Apple ease of use, adding users, replicating that across many servers. I've got an engineering group here. Let me just open up that. Maybe I want to add some people to my engineering group, add Alex to it. I just drag him over. He's now in that group. Save it off. I'm done. I've added a user and a group to my server. Just Apple ease of use. Try that on a Linux server. You'll be playing around with config files for days. Let's go over to file and print. We talked about these services that we provide as a file server. Let's say I want to enable, on the server that I'm talking to right now, I want to enable Windows file services. It's really complicated. I go to my Windows file service, start it, it's now a Windows file server. That's all you have to do. It will show up in the network neighborhood on a Windows client machine and look just like a Windows server. And the client doesn't have to know anything different. You want to get in there and configure it at a level of detail. You can go in, manage the neighborhood. How do you want it to appear as a WinS server? No problem. We have all the right tools to drill down and do whatever you want. That's Apple ease of use. Let's go into the internet side. Talked about Apache. Any of you have ever had the pleasure of setting up an Apache server? You know, while it's the most popular server in the world, it's not the easiest server to set up an administrator. Most people spend days, literally 2-3 days, setting it up, configuring it, playing with the config files, trying to get it just right, making sure they made it secure and set off all the right ports that they have to worry about. Well, at Apple, it's really complicated. We click Start Web Service. It'll blink for a few seconds as it sets up our Apache web server, and then it'll be all set for you. And that's it. That's the world's easiest to use Apache web server. Of course, there's a lot of detail in there. We can go in and configure that server. There's a lot of information you can drive down. For example, I've got one website running on this server. Let's get inside it. Maybe I want to turn on security, add SSL security to my website. Just a checkbox. I've now turned on website security with SSL on an Apache web server. Challenge anyone else who shows you a server demo of Apache to go in and add a website and turn on SSL. There won't be enough hours in the day to get something like that done. Close that off. So it's very simple. Here's some of those network services I talked about. If I want to turn on IP firewall, just a click of a button, add a DHCP server, click of a button, and you can configure it at will. So administering a server and all the services you support in your enterprise is really easy, and yet it's all Unix-based. So that's what we mean by the power of Unix, the ease of use of a Mac, and how it applies to a server. Now let's go a step further now. That other piece of software I told you about, Server Monitor. So this is our new software for managing the hardware of an Xserve. So remotely, never having hooked up a monitor to any of these servers, I can bring it up and I can manage it anywhere in the world using this software with all the proper levels of security in place that only the right people can do this. I have a bunch of servers. I can support hundreds of services in this interface, and they can all scroll. They give you your name, the IP address of the server, and at a glance, with all these great green dots we'll talk about in a second, instant view on so many of the key critical information coming from the server. So, and it works a lot like iTunes. If I want to just focus down on a couple servers, piano bar, I just start typing and it will filter what I'm working on at the time. I can work on all of them or a few of them. And again, I can manage hundreds of them. Well, let's look at some of the information. Let me click on this first server. What you're going to see across the top are these green buttons that refer to different pieces of hardware and their current status. The color tells you everything's fine. So for example, I can click on either the green buttons or the tabs they correspond to on the bottom. Either way works just fine. So the first one, you see there's a drive icon and the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those correspond to the 4 hard drives in each one of those servers. They're all green, they're all looking fine. I can click on any of them, like this first server. Let's click on drive 3. It tells me the model drive, the make drive, what bus it's sitting on, its capacity, how many bytes have been written to and read from it. At a glance, I get data telling me the health and status of this drive. Steve told you it adheres to the smart monitoring service. So this drive can predict pre-failures before they happen and send the data to us via the server monitor here. And anywhere in the world, I can get predictive information if there's going to be a drive problem coming up. The second status indicator is power. It's tracking data in real time from the power supplies from all these servers. I can click on it. I can get information at a glance of how it's doing. I also get a graph by voltage of what's coming out of that power supply and how well it's going. You imagine your administrator starting to see brownouts here in California. You want to see what's been happening in the server power supply. You can go into here and see all the data in a glance. Next up are the Ethernet links. We track not only the 2 built-in ones, but any ones you add into the PCI slots. So you see each have a built-in gigabit interface. I can click on any one of those. It will tell me its Ethernet address. It'll tell me the status, up or down. One was not running and hooked up to the network. The other one is. I can see it's auto-negotiated as a gigabit Ethernet full duplex interface. I see all that right here. And again, I can track data like how many packets per second in and out of it and see how it's been going, what kind of traffic I have on my server. So all of this at a glance. Next up are the fans. I have 2 fans in here. You see one's running right now at 4272 RPMs. The other one's running at 4090 RPMs. These are smart fans in the system. If one of the fans were to go down, the other one can pick up some of the load until the time when you can go and manage it. And these things are hot swappable. I can open up the drive, the unit, let's say a fan's gone down, in 20 seconds change out the fan without a single screw to replace, slide it back in without having turned it off. So if I get a warning, I can do something about it without bringing the service down to my customers. So very, very simple capability. Oh, the last icon is the lock. It tells me that the server is locked and there hasn't been an intrusion alert. There's a sensor inside the unit. If it were to be popped open, I'd see an intrusion alert, someone's opened this up, and get a notification in the software. Now all of this happens dynamically, and it is all real time. Just to make it fun, let me show you how hard it is to add another server to it. I'm going to add another server we have over in the piano bar. Let me log into it. And it will query the server, talk to it, and of course it's sorted by name, so it popped down to the bottom. Whoa, you see this one's blinking red. I've got a red status indicator, and I've also got a yellow warning happening on the units. Now I can look in this manner, but there's some flexibility here. I could say, I know what these icons mean. I just need basic, simple information. I don't need all the details. Or I could click and say, don't show me things that are okay, just show me things that have a warning. So I can set this up any way I want it to work. Let me bring back to the full interface. So what are these things going on? Let's click on this red one. Now I can tell you the server's actually doing just fine, but we've manually affected it so that it would give us these warnings for the purpose of this demo. Surprise. So the red warning tells us that fan number 1 has stopped working. You can see it's not spinning at all. So we now know a fan's gone down. Well, guess what the yellow warning is? The yellow warning is it's getting warm there in the processor module because the fan's gone down. It's not critical yet, but I have time to do something before it does become critical. Now you're probably wondering, but how do I know? Do I have to sit here and stare at this all day long? No, you don't. I can take any one of these servers and do them all together or individually. I can set notifications. With notifications, I can set up who gets warned about what, via email or page. So I can set up hierarchies of people. I can say Doug is set up that if anything goes wrong with any one of these physical devices, he's at the lowest order of the priority list. He gets the first call. He's going to get the first page, the first email, and bug Doug. I can set myself up as a higher level on some or all of these elements and say if it hasn't been fixed after a certain period of time, now bug me because Doug hasn't woken up and gone in and fixed it. So I can set levels of hierarchy, multiple people. I can have somebody that gets warned just if the power supply goes, because that's our power guy. Or I could set someone to get everything. And I can do it by server or whole groups of servers. So built-in powerful notification features. So that's our new server monitor. If you're a macOS 10 administrator, you're using Xserve, out of the box, this is the easy-to-use tool that I think it makes it very powerful to manage everything and give you a tremendous amount of data. It shows the hardware-software integration we're able to deliver here at Apple, working with macOS 10 Server and Xserve. Okay. Now we've talked a little bit about the things people might do with all this great Unix underpinnings. Clearly, people will buy, our customers will buy Xserves to use them as file servers and print servers. I think there's enough amazing technology there that you're going to start to see them show up as internet servers, web servers, and certainly as mail servers for whole enterprises. The workgroup management is a growing area with all the client management you can do with macOS 10 and the features coming with NetBoot. The ability to even NetBoot servers means you can set up whole internet servers where they all boot off of each other. So you start to see that very popular. And one area that Apple's not known very much for, you're going to start to see us grow with a lot of exciting solutions that are database driven, as well as web application driven. And we have some exciting information coming up later about that, but we're just going to see more and more solutions in that area. Media streaming we're certainly known for, and I can't tell you how many QuickTime streaming customers have asked us for the ability to rack mount their QuickTime streaming servers. I think that's really going to be a tremendous benefit to our customers. And last, in higher education and in our sci-tech customers, you're going to start to see computational clusters getting built, where I can run a number of applications across a range of servers as if they were one virtual machine. And this is really the future of servers. All the major server software companies are moving in this direction now, which is using affordable one-use servers racked in large arrays that dynamically run a computational solution. So again, let me show you a few examples of these kind of solutions that customers can get started with using the new Xserve. The first one is a database solution, something you wouldn't normally think of an Apple product being a web database server. You've seen an announcement over the last few months from Sybase coming onto the macOS 10 platform, where they now have software up and running on macOS 10 servers, and with an Xserve it makes tremendous sense. Here is an actual database. This is the NBA's database that they serve up on the web. They have a relationship with the NBA and serve up their database. And we've brought all of that database onto, I can run it from one Xserve, and we've put a web objects front end. So there's no web server running here. It's completely accessible via the web using web objects and its direct-to-web feature and a Sybase database that it connects to, and all of that running on one Xserve. So I can drill down over the internet to a database. I can, for example, and this is the real live data, look at playoff players, see who's the leader in points per game, hit search, it goes into web objects, it queries the Sybase database, comes back with the information and presents it right there in my browser. So real web-based driven applications. I'm going to drill down deeper. You may notice number 9 in playoff points, Shaquille O'Neal. There he is. We can drill deeper. I picked Shaq because I think a lot of you know that he's a big iPod user. And he's convinced the entire Lakers team that they all should be iPod owners. So we're very appreciative of that. So that's an example of a database-driven website using web objects. The entire solution now, all running on macOS 10 servers, all running on Xserve hardware. And see a lot of customers starting to build capabilities like this into their enterprise. A second solution, I think this is just amazing to see, is the ability to run that BLAST software that Steve talked about that's so important in genetic research, where you compare databases of genetic sequences against known genetic code to try to find matches. It's a very computationally intense solution, and we can run that not only on an Xserve, but on clusters of Xserves. So on the back end, on this demo, it runs pretty quick. Well, let me start it off for you. I'm going to just launch it. It's going to launch a terminal script, and then on the front end is a Java application called TurboBlast for the client side, for my side, that's now sending out a bunch of sequences to a bank of 8 Xserves. Those Xservers have on them the BLAST software that Apple and Stanford and Genentech together came out with. It's called AG BLAST. That's so fast. It runs anywhere from 5 to 50 times faster, depending on word length, than Pentium-based BLAST solutions. And now we're sending out over 1,200 individual comparisons we want to do of a sequence. We have, again, a sequence here, and we're going to compare it against two chromosomes, human chromosomes. We're going to compare it against chromosome 1, and that's at the top, and chromosome X, the X chromosome, I think a lot of us know about. Chromosome 1 is actually the largest chromosome, and so it's a pretty big comparison. Yellow are base sequences that have been sent out. Green are ones that have started to come back from the server, and blue are when they're compiled into a final table and report. So it's actually going out and doing 1,200 comparisons, and it's done. It's done those. I think Guy and team will tell you that was really fast, really fast. And at the end, it brings up the final report. For those of you who are genetic experts and remember your biochemistry, you'll recognize those base pairs and the compares. We are all made up of 4 base pairs. We're a 2-bit computational engine ourselves. And that's it. What's amazing here is this is a clustered computing solution. We are right now at Apple talking to a bank of servers, running software that businesses rely on every single day, and we put together a scientific computing example that's real cluster-based computing. That is incredibly exciting that these machines are so affordable and so scalable to do real serious work like that. Okay, a couple more demos. Let's move on to an example from our publishing customers. We have some very large companies. Steve mentioned a few, Disney and others, Hallmark, so many others that are publishing based. And in fact, I challenge you to find a Fortune 500 company that doesn't have a publishing organization inside it. And here's one of our publishing developers that makes server-side software. Canto, their Cumulus product, is a database-driven product for publishing companies. So I'm going to go into this database. Now this one has an X server running a database and a Apache web server to create this front end. And I'm going to go in and say, let's say I want a picture of from the Paris to Dakar races, and it's gone and queried a database of 150,000 images that fast, and I can find the matches to my query for Dakar, and there are the images. Let's say I wanted to order one. Let's go find some information on it first. I click, it drills down deeper, and brings up the information about that photo, its availability, its copyright information. I can decide to use it or not. So existing solutions that were server-driven now make tremendous sense with our new Xserve product and macOS 10 server. Okay, I have one last example, probably my favorite, most fun one. I'm going to do a QuickTime streaming demo off of one Xserve, and what we're going to do is serve up some DSL quality streams and play that, and then use a box called a web avalanche, for those who know this, that is able to simultaneously pull a lot of streams off a server to test its workload. And so we're going to start a QuickTime stream here. Again, it's start this one. It's a DSL stream of a music video. I'm going to connect up to that server, start playing it. And now we're playing a DSL quality stream over 0.5 megabit per second bandwidth required. Now I'm going to launch my browser again, and I'm going to go to the QuickTime server management page and start looking at this stream. And what we're doing is this web avalanche is starting to run a script. See, the one stream that we've asked for is coming off of it. And then the web avalanche is going to start sending other users to it. And we're going to simulate driving, takes a few seconds to get it kicked up, driving more than one stream off this one new server. So again, we'll get about a 30-second head start. There we go. So it's now hooked up 16 users, 67 users, all pulling data actually off the X server. Over 100 users now of DSL quality video coming from this one Xserve. Over 200 streams coming off this one server. Now over 300. When will it stop? 400. You can see the throughput. We're now over 200 megabytes a second coming from the one server, continuing to go up. We're almost done. We've set up the scripts to simulate 500 actual streams coming from this server. So we have one Xserve delivering 500 plus my one right here, 501 streams all coming from one Xserve and all running DSL quality video. And that's tremendous. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Xserve. So that's my part for today, to show you that macOS 10 Server is an amazing Unix platform that has real Unix underpinnings for all the things enterprises are doing today on their networks. This isn't some other strange solution. It's exactly what they're deploying today, only it's done with Apple hardware, Apple software, and yet unique Apple software ease of use. It's as powerful as Unix and easy to use as a Macintosh to do all of these great things. I'll turn it back over to Steve.
So now, thank you, Phil. Now we get to how are we going to service, support, and sell these servers. And you might think, well, Apple's never done this before. Apple doesn't do anything close to this before. But you might be wrong. So here to tell us about that is Tim Cook. Tim is our Executive Vice President who runs operations, sales, and support. And how are we going to service and support and sell these things, Tim?
Great. Thank you, Steve. Good morning. So I'd like to talk about both support and sales. You've heard a lot about the product features. And I'd like to first start by saying that we fully recognize that server support is really, really hard. And so as Steve indicated earlier, we've entered into this very humbly. We discovered two things as we began to look at this of why it's really, really hard. And the first is that the applications running on servers are generally mission critical. There are things that must happen. So for me, that might be taking orders, hopefully many of them, fulfilling orders, shipping orders, invoicing customers, things you can't stop. Also, there's a fundamental lack of integration among most of the solutions on the market today. And this has a consequence that's really awful for customers, which is they have more issues. And maybe even worse than that, when they have an issue, the timely response really isn't there. So with that kind of backdrop, we went out and asked our customers, what do you want? And when we asked that, we got back 7 simple kind of things. Maybe not simple to deliver, but fairly simple to understand. The very first was they really don't want support. They want products to work. Now, this is a fairly simple thing, maybe to understand. But so we looked at how do we provide this? And as it turns out, for those of you that are using Macs today, you may not know, but you've seen the result of, we have very robust quality assurance processes in Apple. And it's because we control the whole of the solution. Our reliability testing in engineering is enormous before we bring a product to market. And maybe more importantly than both of those, our customers that are operating in mixed environments tell us that the Mac is better. And that's the ultimate test. The second thing they told us was that they want really expert technical support. Really expert. When they have a problem, they don't want to get on the phone with someone that's just been trained for 3 weeks. Now, this is not what they wanted. So we looked and to see how do we shape up here. Well, there was a survey done in Consumer Reports, very unbiased survey. Grantedly, it's about consumers, but I think what it shows is the customer-centric kind of culture in companies. So let's look at this. The first company in the rating, IBM, coming in at 61. Compaq shortly there behind, coming in at 62. Not bad. HP, maybe this is why the marriage of HP and Compaq made so much sense. They're coming in at both 62s. Gateway, materially better, coming in at 71, pretty good. And this great competitor of ours in Texas, it's gaining share, coming in at 72. This is now getting really good. But look who's number 1. It's Apple. 73, and take a close look at the chart, not just good, but the very best in the support staff. Better than all the rest. And the best in waiting. Now, this is pretty remarkable. So we feel like we've got a great foundation to build upon. The next thing our customers told us was that they wanted problems solved, not a lot of finger pointing. Well, this industry that I've been in for now almost 20 years, and that most of you have been customers in for a long time, I've seen more cartoons in this area than anything other in our whole industry. I could probably name the three guys, and you could name them too, but what happens? You call the hardware company, and the hardware company, what do they say? Go to the OS company. So you turn around and you call the OS company, what do they say? Go to the hardware company. And pretty soon, you feel like the rat in the maze, bouncing up against the walls, never quite finding the way to the end of the maze. Well, at Apple, we're fundamentally different in this regard because we're delivering a solution. It just so happens that this solution has software and hardware in it. It's been designed as a solution to do something. So we feel pretty good in this space as well. The fourth thing they told us was they wanted access to us, not 8 to 5, not the banker's hours, but every minute, every day, all year long. Well, as it turns out, we do this today in Apple for some of our customers. We have a group of customers that really demand this today. So again, we have experience here. The next thing they told us was a group of them wanted to be self-sufficient, particularly in the hardware area. So what have we done? Look at this. Steve showed this earlier. Pull it out, replace. Very simple, very fast. You can do it in seconds. I've been doing manufacturing a long time. I've never seen anything this good before. I mean, you can literally train someone with very limited knowledge to do this in seconds. So we feel really good in this space as well. Now, a group of them said, well, that's fine, but I want on-site support. I don't want to touch anything. And so, as you probably know, we also do this today for a group of our customers. So again, we feel pretty good in this space. The next thing they told us was that they wanted speed. Really, really fast. In fact, the group that didn't want to touch anything wanted 4-hour on-site support. We don't do this today. We've really majored in learning how to do this over the last several months, and I'm pleased to tell you that today we're ready to do this. Now, also for those customers that want to do this, but they want to do it themselves so that they can take 4 hours to 4 seconds, we're providing them a spare parts kit so they can go in and make this easy change themselves. So if you look at this list, 7 things. We had to really hone on the last one, but we feel like we've got a great base to build upon here. So again, when we step back from this, there was one thing among that list that they yelled louder than all the rest. Do you know which one it was? It was this one. They're really sick of this. I mean, they're almost sick to their stomachs of this. And we feel like this, that we can do this better than anyone else. Because we're one of the last companies that can provide the whole of the solution. So today I'm very pleased to announce 3 separate offerings in this area. The Premium Service Support Plan, which is a 3-year plan that includes hardware and software. The Service Parts Kit that I referred to before. And professional services offerings where we will do a custom plan for our larger customers that want something unique. And all of these are available today. We anticipate the first 2 of those having an enormous attach rate to the servers that we sell. So that's support. Now I'd like to go to sales. How do we sell it? You may be wondering which target markets we might look at. Well, there's several target markets in the audience here today, I'm glad to say. And the very first one sitting around in this part of the audience here is education. We have the largest client base of any company in the world in education. We're very proud of that. We continue to very much focus on this market. We think there's a great opportunity for us here. We call on tens of thousands of institutions in this area. The second is creative. Apple continues to be the platform of choice in this environment. We think there's a great opportunity for us in this target. Biotech. You're going to hear from one of these customers next. You already saw some of the demos from Phil in terms of the Blast application. And in video, this is a very interesting vertical for us, where our platform share in this market grew to almost 50% last year. And with our push into Final Cut Pro and the apps area increasing there, our momentum is building in this market. So we're going to initially focus on these 4 markets. The channels that we will go after here. If you look at how other people are selling servers today, there's principally 2 ways. In the direct space, you have direct sales and e-commerce. In the indirect space, you have mail order and VAR specialists. It's a value-added reseller, indirect reseller. Well, if you look at the direct area, there's a king of this. And that king is the guys in Texas. They do this really, really well. They sell a lot of servers direct. And that doesn't mean that no one else sells direct. In fact, many companies are pushing to sell more and more direct. But if you look at the indirect area, these guys are sort of the kings of the indirect area. You have the new Compaq HP company and IBM in this area. So what are we going to do? Which one will we select? Well, it turns out we're going to do all of these. And there's a real reason for this. This is just not wanting to be everywhere. It's that we have perhaps the largest sales force in the United States in education. All of them are going to be very focused on this. We have a great online store that's built up significant momentum in the last 4 years. We're going to be taking orders there today. In the mail order space, and this is one that you may not know, Apple really started this channel. This was born with Apple. And those partners have been key to Apple for years. They continue to be. This area, this mail order area, you may not know this, they sell over 1/3 of the servers sold through the indirect channel in the United States. Over 1/3. These are guys that we've had relationships with for a long time. And the VAR and specialist area is also very key to us, because there's some markets that we've said that the best way to attack these is through a VAR. Video is a great example of this. We doubled the number of our video VARs last quarter from the previous quarter. So we're committed to selling through all of these channels because our customers enjoy doing business with all of these. So today, we're taking orders, as Steve said before. I'll be in the back of the room taking your order. If you don't want to place it on the internet, I'll take it on a pad of paper for you. You can configure it any way that you want, literally anything that you want. You can't be the first one, however. As you're going to hear in a few minutes, we've already taken the first order, but you can claim to order on the first day. And so with that, thank you very much. I'm going to turn it back over to Steve, who will talk about partners and customers.
Thank you, Tim. So let's talk about partners and customers. We've got a few partners here today that we asked to come and talk about how they're going to help us with Xserve. We haven't shown Xserve to a lot of them yet, but the ones we have shown it to, the reaction's been very, very strong. So the first partner I'd like to invite up is from Oracle. I'd like to invite up Mike Roca, Senior Vice President of Platform Technologies. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Generally speaking, you don't think of Apple and Oracle working very closely. I guess you generally think of the CEOs talking quite frequently, but not the two companies. But over the last couple of years, we have been working very closely together. In fact, a couple of years ago, we certified our applications client against the Apple client software. And at the time, that year, we're an e-business company. We track everything that hits our websites, everything we do in marketing, everything we do in sales and support. That year, the #1 hit on our website for a marketing program was actually to learn about how Oracle was supporting Macintosh, right? How we were working with Apple to provide client support for our applications. Right? These are customers, as Steve talked about, who are generally Unix customers who are looking for ease of use. And they have different environments in their environment, so they were very interested in the work we were doing together. So from that base, we started looking at what we could do around the Unix infrastructure. And we started looking at Mac OS X, right? And we started looking at the Unix infrastructure around Mac OS X to provide database support, Oracle 9i. And so we're pleased to announce support for Oracle 9i on Mac OS X, and we're very excited about this platform because Oracle is really about low-cost clustering, right? We're looking at high availability computing through clustering. By putting your Oracle 9i on a platform that could be clustered together, right? Your database that could be clustered together on those boxes, you get instant support for the Oracle application, but more importantly, you get instant availability and high availability, right? So if one of these boxes goes down, your data is not lost. And so we're very pleased with the work we're doing with Apple. We're going to announce we're going to have availability of a developer's release first, followed by full production, and more importantly, and I think what's even more important in the Unix space is what Apple's been talking about around Unix support. Right? Using the Unix infrastructure to support the application. So we're doing this the right way. Right? That means that when our customers use Apple as a platform, they can be assured that they're going to get future releases on time, synchronous, so they can roll that platform out across their environment in a heterogeneous way. All right, so let me just explain that for a second. When we use Unix native support, native APIs optimized for this hardware platform, we all of a sudden can synchronize our releases so that our customers have unified databases across their environments. They don't have to have different database versions on Apple versus Sun versus HP. They can have one database version. All the applications supporting that, right? So when they roll out Oracle applications to run on this platform, their databases are now unified. They can cluster them. They get availability and low cost. And so we think this is a very exciting work that we're doing together. We think it benefits our large and small customers, our education customers, as well as our commercial customers, because this is the kind of platform they're looking for. They're looking for high availability at the lowest price points. And they're looking for the ability to roll out their applications infrastructure across the entire environment. So we're incredibly excited about this. And we're looking forward to doing more work with Apple.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Steve.
We're really excited about this. Now, as Phil talked about, we have built into Mac OS X Server the infrastructure required so that when a large enterprise buys some Xserves, they can plug them right in to their management infrastructure that is heterogeneous, managing all the servers in their enterprise. And one of the most successful ones of those products is from Hewlett-Packard. I'm very pleased to welcome Russ Daniels from HP.
Thank you. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a very exciting announcement that Apple's making today. And we're really thrilled to be a strategic partner in this new endeavor. Let me explain a little bit about what OpenView is. It's the industry-leading services management solution. It provides quality of experience and quality of business. It allows you to assure those capabilities. The way we do it is by being able to monitor that critical management data, analyze it, and present it to you so you can, our customers have told us that to be able to realize the maximum levels of performance and availability, that OpenView is really critical to that. So we're really thrilled to be able to bring that capability to this new and exciting platform. OpenView is a multi-platform, multi-vendor technology, and it makes heavy use of open standards. You've heard a lot about how this platform makes use of open standards as well, which has allowed us to be able to bring this up very quickly. HP's actually been in the news a fair amount recently, as it turns out. Yeah. There's this little merger thing. A lot of the controversy in that merger was would we be losing the HP way? So as we've been rolling out the new HP, we've been really focused on being able to articulate what the values are of the company moving forward. So there's 4 of them that we point to: passion for customers, trust and respect, teamwork, and speed and agility. So the speed and agility is one that maybe not everybody associates with HP, but we think it's crucial moving forward. So 2 of these are particularly important in this context. The first is passion for customers. We think it's really wonderful that we're going to be able to provide to OpenView customers the ability to manage these in a seamless fashion when they introduce them into the data center. We think that's a really key capability. It's very important for our existing customers. We also, of course, have passion for new customers. Not too surprising. So a lot of these verticals that Phil was talking about earlier, we're really excited to be able to bring our technology and the value that we offer to customers into those new markets. So we're looking forward to doing that along with Apple. So the other one is the speed and agility one. And again, because of the open standards that we share in the approach, we were able to bring the core management capabilities of OpenView onto this platform very, very quickly. Our management console runs on this server with no modifications at all. And by just making a small change in the configuration, it actually delivers the Mac look and feel that we think Apple customers expect. So that's a really nice thing. And because those things that you tend to think of as being hard were actually easy, that means that we can start moving up and going for more and more value for our customers. It's really exciting to think about adding the QuickTime streaming capability as one of the business critical applications that we can manage now. We manage a lot of applications, business critical applications today. You just heard about one of them, Oracle 9i, is very important. So we think this is really great. We think it's great for Apple. We really think it's great for HP OpenView. But we, of course, are most important. We think it's really great for our customers and partners moving forward. So thanks very much, Steve.
Thank you, Russ. There's a lot more partners that we have than we have time for today. So I'd like to move on to talking about some customers. We invited 2 customers to come today that we previewed Xserve to, and we asked them to give you their reactions. So first is Clear Channel. Clear Channel is one of the largest media companies in the world. They use a lot of Macs, and it's my pleasure to introduce Bobby Harris from Clear Channel. Welcome, Bobby.
Thanks. Being a customer nowadays of Apple is quite an amazing thing. Every time we turn a web browser on or turn a page, we end up finding that we're going to do our business better and a little bit more style than everybody else. We were privileged enough to be able to see Xserve before everyone else, and I think you'll see in the press release, we were simply blown away. At Clear Channel, have had such an amazing task. We have about 3,000 Macs at the moment spread across the entire United States and international, and I have 3 guys taking care of all of them. This server brings to the table so many more abilities for us to do our jobs better and take care of our customers better, which is our internal clients, and we're absolutely excited. We can take advantage of so many of the things that currently on just a desktop platform we're not able to do. I think we'll be spending a lot more time at home. Basically, we're talking content creation with nonlinear television and radio production, graphics pre-press houses, digital imaging facilities, spread out in too many places that I can see. And it's going to be pretty amazing to be able to click a button and they're all popping up right in front of us. We have committed to 40 of them right off the bat. I can't wait to get them in. I think the potential is going to be amazing once we get those inside. The rest of the IT organization is going to see us. They've always been drooling over us. They're going to be drooling even more now. Thank goodness there's a tamper lock and alarms on there, because I plan on taking full advantage of them. But it's an amazing time to be in this industry and to be a partner with Apple, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Bobby, for those here that don't know, what Clear Channel's revenues? 60.
Technically, I wasn't supposed to say anything, but I think it's in the 40 billion range.
40 billion range?
But I didn't say that.
Okay. Huge. Next up, one of our partners, Genentech. I'm very pleased to welcome Guy Cranes from Genentech to tell us about what they're going to do.
Great. Thanks, Steve.
Welcome.
Great. Guess some of you know me from past events. We'll mention that the 1,000 iMacs that we purchased over a span of time are rolling out quite smoothly in our OS X rollout internally, so we're pleased with that project that we've done with Apple. So we not only had the opportunity to see these boxes, but to use them for a short while prior to this official launch. So we've got some observations. 3 points for you, one on engineering, a couple on performance. First on engineering is, I know you believe it based on what you've heard from Apple, but I'll tell you the same thing. This is not a desktop box with wrap mount ears. Whether you go to the physical internal design of the box, the hot swap capabilities, or the system's monitoring, the remote monitoring capabilities, this is a data center box. My guys who work in a data center with a lot of different gear are fully accepting of the box and extremely comfortable with it. So quite clearly that's the sort of box it is. It's really designed right. Everything down to cable management capability. This shows that there was an awful lot of reflection and an awful lot of interaction with customers to make sure this was done right. Second point, performance. People need to understand the G4 itself is a heck of a processor, especially when it comes to a lot of things that we do fairly often. People may not know this, but the same sort of capability, the Velocity engine that lets you render a Photoshop page quickly, can be utilized to compare 2 strands of DNA very quickly. Now, this wasn't obvious to a lot of folks. We're very happy with the investment that the Apple Advanced Computation Group made to actually make that happen. People have been looking at that problem for a long time. So the actual situation with, I certainly won't say it is all that is done in bioinformatics by a long shot, but the single most common application is BLAST, and to have a system that both takes advantage of vectorization in the detail and also takes advantage of the ability to run in a massively parallel fashion. Well, I can't say we're massive at this point. Well, we're parallel. So yes, indeed, clusters of these things distribute very well across the racks. So I think that's the root of our observation initially on why you would have the performance. I'm not going to give you any numbers today in terms of some of the tests we've run, but with the help from Dr. Colin Watanabe in my department and some help from our bioinformatics group headed by Dr. William Wood, we've done a reasonable number of tests over a reasonable range of realistic problems. And again, if I were to give you the 3 caveats and the 1 number, I know what would get published, so I won't. But let's just say that this is going to be a question of not a measurable improvement, but a meaningful improvement in terms of our ability to get the work done that we have to do. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Guy. So, we've heard from a few partners, we've heard from a few customers. Hopefully we're going to be hearing from a lot more customers shortly. But before we begin our Q&A, I've got one more little thing that I wanted to talk to you about. So, you've just heard all about Xserve. And what we'd like to also do is give you a little technology preview of something that we're going to be rolling out around the end of this year. And that is a companion product called Xserve RAID. So this is Xserve, and Xserve RAID is an amazing companion storage product that looks like this. And I'd like to invite Alex Grossman from Apple up to give us a preview of Xserve RAID. Alex?
Thanks, Steve. Okay. Well,
Do the honors.
thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. Well, I'm really excited to have the opportunity to give you a technology preview of our rack-optimized storage. And rack-optimized storage is the perfect complement to the server. And what we've done is we've developed a very high-density 3U height rack-optimized storage device that is 14 drive bays. And with that density, we're able to put 14 120 gigabyte hard drives in the same Apple carriers that we use in the server and deliver 1.68 terabytes of storage. And that's massive. But to get that storage to the server, we had to choose a high-speed interconnect. And we chose what we think is the best, which is 2 gigabit fiber channel. But we went one step further, and we put dual 2 gigabit fiber channel on the system. That gives us 400 megabytes a second of storage throughput. I mean, that's just incredible. And that is the latest and the greatest fiber channel out there. But RAID systems are all about data protection. And to achieve data protection, we put dual RAID controllers in the system, and we put all the critical components as redundant components. In fact, the drives, the power, and the cooling are redundant in the system. And they're hot swappable. And the way we achieved this was through a brand new Apple design architecture. And let me take you through that really quickly. The architecture has 14 independent hard drives. And each RAID controller connects to 7 of these hard drives. The hard drives have independent ATA controllers that go to the heart of the system. And the heart of the system is the RAID processor. The RAID processor is very fast, and it's powerful. And we've added 128 megabytes of processor cache to it for even better performance. Up on the top of the diagram, there's a little blue icon, probably not too familiar to all of you, but that's the icon for 2 gigabit fiber channel. So our 2 gigabit fiber channel controller actually has its own dedicated PCI bus to the RAID processor. And that gives us substantial throughput. I mean, really, really high throughput. This thing was designed for max throughput. Off to the side of that, you'll see what we call the RAID Environment Manager. And that's a tool, it's actually an embedded coprocessor that gives us the ability to manage these RAID systems remotely. So we can set them up, we can manage them, and we can monitor them. Very similar to what we do with Xserve. If we put the whole thing together and look at the entire diagram, you'll see that on each side we have redundant power. So we have redundant load-sharing power supplies, and in the center we have redundant cooling. And just like Xserve, the cooling is smart. So if one of the cooling systems fails, the other one will take up the speed. You'll also notice the little green bars on top. Those are redundant drive cache. So actually, we cache the processor memory. And overall, this makes a very fault-tolerant system with very high throughput. Xserve RAID is going to be available, as Steve said, by the end of calendar year 2002. So let me just sum it up for you real quickly. 14 drive bays, very high density 3U enclosure, 1.68 terabytes of massive storage online, and 2 gigabit fiber channel. That's Xserve RAID. And this is only a technology preview. We're going to announce this later in the year. Thanks, Steve.
Great. Good job. So, overview, we had software remote management, sales, service, and support, partners and customers, a bonus technology preview of Xserve RAID, which brings us to the Q&A. So I'd like to invite Phil and Tim back up on stage. I'd also like to invite John Rubenstein, who runs our hardware team, who has developed these products. And Avi Tavanian is in the audience as well. If we have any software questions, Avi's led the team on Mac OS X Server. So why don't we grab some stools and come on up here, and we'll try to answer any questions you have. Thanks. So what do you think?
Can Xserve run with OS 10? I mean, not server version, or with OS 9?
No, Xserve runs, it comes bundled with Mac OS 10 server. So you don't have to pay extra for it. It comes with it. Unlimited number of users, that's what it's for. They're designed like a hand in a glove. Sir.
Yes, are you planning to do any benchmarking with this? And if you are, which benchmarks will you run?
Phil?
Yeah, we're hard at work, as you know. These are, or if I didn't say, these are pre-production units running some data software, so we're not ready to publish our results yet, but we're hard at work on all the standard test suites that most people compare today, WebBench, NetBench. So far, the ADOS, disk drive utilities showing network drive bandwidth, a number of tests, and we've also got some industry-specific tests like BLAST and others. So we're working on all of those test suites and hope to have numbers to publish and share by the time the product is available.
Preliminary numbers look good. We want to get it exactly right. Yes?
I have two questions for whoever wants to answer. First of all, you said that you're going to, VARs are going to be one of the channels you're going to sell the new servers through. Are there any kind of new initiatives in place or programs, or how are you going to help people ramp up for that? And also, what percentage now of Apple's sales go through VARs, if you have that number?
We'll be doing an enormous amount of training now that we've announced it pre the delivery, and so that our channels will be very ready to both sell and provide consulting on the server. We really anticipated this, however, and so it's not a matter of that we feel like now we have to go capture a new channel to do this. As I alluded to in my brief presentation, we in fact in the video VAR space, as an example, went from 0 about a year ago to 150 of these worldwide now. And we've done that in selected other parts of the channel that we felt like we really needed more advocacy. And so we really feel like we've got the right kind of channel in place. I wouldn't want to quote, we generally don't quote exact sales coming from exact channels, but I would just say that the channels that I laid out are all really, really important to us, and we think that all of these provide us a great mechanism for moving servers.
The other thing I would add to that is that, as I mentioned, the interest that Apple has gotten since we launched Mac OS 10, a Unix-based operating system, from the Unix community has been very strong, stronger than we ever anticipated. People are calling us now who wouldn't even talk to us when we called them before Mac OS 10. And we expect the server to even fuel that further. So I think you'll see that.
Hi.
Sir. Oh. Where? Please.
Just a quick question. With the Unix theme that you're talking about, any plans to support Java development tools, any of that stuff, or in your future plans?
Avi, you want to take that one?
Java is built into the server, and we're working on in fact, a server-optimized version that we'll deliver in the future. And we found that in general, things that run on Java run very well on our version of Java, including in the server. So it's all there today.
Sir.
Hi. Two questions, one very specific, and then one more general. The specific one, is WebObjects preloaded included, or is that a separate purchase? And if so, maybe you could explain a little bit about the licensing, because there's been some confusion or debate about that in the past. The more general question, you described this as a first, I think, for Apple, but some of us over the last 15 years remember a whole lot of varied server initiatives on Apple's part, AUX and the different versions of that, one AIX version, Power Open, various pieces of hardware, most of which only lasted, a year or two. And when I used to talk to IT people, they used to say that they put very high value on stability, and Apple wasn't delivering that for the back office in particular. Do you think that's all in the past, and they'll either don't know about that or will forgive and forget and take a new look at Apple, or are you going to have to overcome that kind of image that the company may have, and if so, how are you going to go about doing that?
Let me take the latter question. I'll give the former one to Phil. As you may know, we talk to a lot of corporate customers now. Some of them we talk to the CIOs, some of them we talk to the graphic arts departments. but we're in a lot of Fortune 500 accounts, and I think that we have been able to earn a lot of credibility. This management team representing Apple has been able to earn a lot of credibility in the last 4 or 5 years from delivering what we said we would do. So hopefully that will accrue right now. I wasn't here when Apple did a lot of those earlier. I think there was really just one server exploration that they had, you know, I look at that as a dream when you know, Apple was in a coma. So. Phil, you want to take the first part?
I don't have any as colorful analogies. The Web Objects, there's two parts to a solution like Web Objects. There's the development part and then the server deployment part. Obviously, the server deployment part is what makes sense on the Xserve, and that does come with macOS 10 Server. Web Objects deployment is built into that. For the client development, there are tools that one purchases, and there's generally two ways to get those from Apple. One, which is the one I recommend the highest, is to join our developer program, and as part of that, you get tools for Web Objects development. A second way is just to purchase them on the Apple Store, and they're available as well for the client-side development. But the server deployment, which is what you need on an Xserve, already comes with it.
Next questions? Just raise your hand if you have a question. Sir.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, during your keynote at WWDC last week, you offered some fairly tantalizing looks at Jaguar Server. If I'm a customer about to drop $3,000 or $4,000 in June, am I looking at a for-pay upgrade to Jaguar Server in late summer, or is the upgrade to the server software in the box?
You're looking at buying Jaguar Server when it comes out in late summer, huh?
If I buy a unit with a single drive and don't have the 3 other bays populated, do they have the carriers there so I can install my own drives? Will you be providing the carriers as separate unpopulated units?
No, we will not.
And when is Pixar going to announce that they're setting these things up as as render farms?
You'll have to ask them. But they like them very much. And they are all Unix-based. Any other questions? Sir?
Just a quick specific question. What's the status of JDK 1.4 at Apple?
Avi?
That would fall into the category of future products that we don't talk about. However, I will say that it's something that we're looking at, and of course you would expect us to have it at some point in the not-too-distant future.
Sir?
You mentioned the parts will come in a service pack, replacement parts. Outside of the service pack for the server, where will you buy the other replacement parts? Will you buy those through Apple?
Through Apple or through the channel.
Okay.
With the clustering of Xserve, is the load balancing done by the software? So is Web Objects doing its own load balancing? Is the Java Blast that you mentioned doing its own load balancing, or is Xserve doing that automatically for applications?
That's done by the software. So there's tools for Blast, which we deployed and we saw here that do that for Blast. For example, Oracle's already mentioned that their clustering solutions be coming to the platform. They do it themselves. So a lot of that's being done by the application provider.
Well, first, I would like to say that incredible boxes. Thank you for doing them.
Thank you.
And also, I would like to know if you're going to push Web Objects now that you have this excellent hardware to run it.
Are we going to push Web Objects?
Yeah, to push into the market, because right now it's like kind of low key, and I think you have an excellent software platform too, and I think it's worth the...
We think we do too, and that's one of the reasons we bundled it in macOS 10 Server, because we want everybody that gets the server to get a Web Objects deployment license for free. And we did have, I don't know how many sessions we had at the developer conference on Web Objects, but I think there were several.
And in terms of marketing, advertisement, or, you know...
Well, again, the market for Web Objects is probably not one that's best reached through mass market advertising.
Yeah, I know.
So. few more. Up in the back.
How significant of a revenue source do you expect the Xserve to be for Apple?
Well, we don't predict revenues, but we'll let you know. And we hope it's even bigger than we think. But we're just getting started in this. And as I mentioned, you know, we just as we approached retail as we got into it a few years ago, we're approaching this very humbly. We have a lot to learn, and this is our first step, and we think our first product is very credible, and we're going to get to interact with lots of customers and learn even more about the hardware and about the software. But I think there's one overriding thing which we all hit upon, but I think Tim touched upon the most. Right now, until Xserve, there's really only one mainstream server vendor that supplies the whole solution, and that's been Sun, where you call a company up and you're talking to the people that did the hardware and the people that did the software. So you're not getting this. And we are the second. And we supply the whole solution here. And we have a lot to learn, but I think we're going to learn fast, and we're going to learn by working with some great customers. And so this is our first big step. And we look forward to taking many steps. Two more questions, and then I think we'll go over to the piano bar and give you a look at this stuff firsthand. Sir.
So you've now expanded your grid from 4 boxes to 5. Can we look forward to a home server product?
6 if you include the iPod.
Okay.
7 if you include the eMac. We're talking about Xserve today, and we're very excited about it. So future products will be in the future. Great. Well, thank you very much for coming today. We really, really appreciate the time that you spent with us, and we're available to answer questions and show you Xserve. So thank you.